Okay, let's talk about Mondays. Let's talk about Mondays. When you think about Mondays, what word comes to mind for you? How do you feel about Mondays? How do you feel about Mondays? Are Mondays, do they give you anxiety? Meetings, do they make you feel stressed? Do you just want to get back in bed? How do you feel about Mondays? Okay, unproductive, anxiety. Okay, heavy. That's a really good one. So when I think of Mondays, it takes me back to being a kid on Sundays. Whenever the big, thick newspaper would arrive, my dad would always, grab the business section, and I would grab the newspaper and dig through it and try to find the comics section or the funny papers. I mean, does anybody else call it funny papers, or is that just me? So I would find the comic section, and I always loved reading the Garfield comics. I don't know, I loved Garfield. Him and his friend Odie, and he would eat lasagna. But one thing that Garfield was always known for was how much he hated Mondays. And Garfield didn't even have a job. He was just a cat, but he hated Mondays. And so I had to laugh when I found all of these different ways that Garfield expressed how much he hated Mondays. And I get it. When you're coming off of the weekend and you're transitioning back into work mode for the next 5 days, it can feel like a drag. And I would love to know if Garfield resonates with you and the way that you feel about Mondays. Pop the word Monday in the chat box and let me know if you agree with Garfield. Yes, I see some all caps Mondays. I get it, Monday, not so good to me. Just another manic Monday, Mondays are crazy. But what if we flip the script on Mondays and decide to make Monday our favorite day of the week? What if we decide to make Monday our favorite day of the week? And that is so interesting. Tuesday is the new Monday for you. The weekend vibes have worn off and there's still so much left. Oh man. So here's my question. We've talked about how Mondays very often feel. We feel stressed. Mondays feel unproductive. Mondays feel heavy. Mondays can give us anxiety. How would you like for your Monday to feel? How would you like to feel as you're stepping into Monday morning? Picture this. Imagine yourself stepping into the work week on Monday. How do you want to feel? I would bet that you would want to feel calm. I would bet that you would want to feel prepared. Like Lincoln said, a tone setter. You want Monday to really help you kick off a productive week. Prepared, peaceful, calm. Who wants to feel ready for anything? I want to feel ready for anything because it seems like lately we've got to be ready for anything because you never know what's going to pop up in your week. If you've got kids, you never know when school's going to be closed or when someone's going to get sick or when you're going to get sick or when a deadline's going to get moved up. You just, you just never know. So how do we go from feeling frazzled and hectic to calm and prepared? How do we win our week before it starts and in only 30 minutes or less? And if it seems impossible, I'm here to tell you it's not. It starts with a weekly planning session. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about during our time together today. But first, let me properly introduce myself as your time management coach for the day. So my name is Anna, and I am so honored to be here as head of community at Clockwise. But I actually kicked off my career years and years ago, click-clacking around in high heels and pencil skirts in the marble halls of Congress as a congressional scheduler. My days were filled with meetings on meetings and trying to manage one of the most hectic schedules in the entire country. Imagine managing a schedule for someone who somehow needs to be everywhere at once, from committee meetings to meetings with constituents in DC to meetings with constituents in the district to dinners and events and receptions and fundraisers and everything. It was so interesting stepping into the world of being a professional, having to not only learn how to manage my own time, but an incredibly hectic schedule as well. So I mentioned right as we signed on today that I'm here in Louisiana. I live about an hour from New Orleans, and New Orleans and Louisiana is known for its food. And after spending some time in DC, I realized that I couldn't get all of my favorite Louisiana foods whenever I wanted, like gumbo and jambalaya and crawfish etouffee. And so I decided to move back to Louisiana, where I kicked off a 10-year career in the 24/7 world of crisis communication and government affairs. Let's see, hurricanes, oil spills, droughts, tornadoes, plant explosions, nonprofit embezzlement schemes, universities on the brink of financial collapse, you name it. And I've probably escorted someone down a back freight elevator into a side alley in order to avoid TV cameras waiting to pounce out front. Every day was chaos to be brought to order and a crisis to be managed. And as you can imagine, after a while, that 24/7 lifestyle really began to take its toll on me. So after dealing with my own bout of burnout, I walked away in search of something different, in search of something better, in hopes that someday I could help busy professionals like you stop feeling overwhelmed and start spending time on what matters most, and hopefully avoid that terrible place of burnout that I found myself in. And so now I am a time management coach, and as head of community at Clockwise, I am your time management coach. Oh, Richard just sent a message and said RT's restaurant in Alexandria didn't get it done. You know, I'm not sure if I ever made it over there, but next time I'm in the area, I'll have to check it out. But I'll tell you what, no restaurant could ever make my favorite Louisiana dishes like my grandmother does. You know, that's the thing that can't be replaced. But now I'm here as your time management coach, and I'm really thrilled to spend time with you today to talk about how to win your week in 30 minutes or less. We're going to start by talking about how a weekly planning session beats decision fatigue. Then we're going to get into the what, how, and when of weekly planning. And then we're going to cap it off by designing your weekly planning session. Really, you're going to be able to walk away from our time together knowing exactly how you're going to do your first or your next weekly planning session. And if you're excited to dig into this weekly planning, just put the word excited in the chat box, because I'll tell you what, as maybe boring as weekly planning session can sound, this is such a game changer in terms of how you will step into your weeks moving forward. And any conversation about a weekly planning session has got to start with decision fatigue. Decision fatigue. And so I would love to know, one, if it's a yes, two, if it's a no. Have you ever experienced decision fatigue? Again, let me know with a number one if you have, and a two if that's a no. Okay, decision fatigue. It's something that affects all of us at some point. And if you're not familiar, decision fatigue is the feeling when the more decisions you make, the worse you become at making decisions. You would think that the more decisions you make, the better you would get on it, but it's actually the opposite. So, fun fact, the average adult makes somewhere around 35,000 decisions each and every day. 35,000. And when you add that up across the course of a week, we're looking at 245,000 decisions that we're making each week. Y'all, it is no wonder that so many of us experience the utter exhaustion after having made so many big decisions. They're coming at us from all sides and all angles. So it can help to think of our decision-making power like a gas tank. So we start each day with a limited amount of decision-making fuel. So we wake up, that tank is all the way full. But as the day wears on, we make more and more decisions. What am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What should I do about that new hire? I need to talk to my boss about this new project. What font am I going to use in this report? The questions and the decisions continue and continue. And with each decision we make, we have less and less fuel in our tank. This is why so many bad decisions happen at night. I'm talking impulse buys, and I'm talking the late night trips to the freezer for an ice cream snack when you're trying to watch your diet. If you've ever been there before, say late night snack, because it is really hard to stop yourself and to make a good decision when you're on empty with that decision-making fuel. So, how can a weekly planning session help with decision fatigue? Right, exactly, John. Late night snack and TV shows when you should just go to bed because you're exhausted from all of the decisions that you made. So, a weekly planning session helps with decision fatigue because a weekly planning session is an opportunity to make a lot of decisions at once at the beginning of the week when your tank is still full. But in addition to being a great way to combat decision fatigue, a weekly planning session is so much more. It's like, but wait, there's more. A weekly planning session truly is the single most important routine that you can do each week. And if you joined me 2 office hours ago, where I talked about the 5 essential routines: your morning routine, your evening routine, your workday startup, your workday shutdown, that number 5 routine is your weekly planning session. And your weekly planning session, this is your bird's eye view of the week ahead that enables you to combat overwhelm, catch communication breakdowns before they happen with your partner, with your significant other, with your coworkers. It's an opportunity for you to set boundaries and decide what you are and what you aren't willing to do. It's your time to identify obstacles. What are the tough spots in your week that may need a little bit of extra planning and foresight? And then finally, a weekly planning session helps you win your week before it starts. And if you've joined us a little bit late and you're wondering if this recording will be shared, yes, the answer is yes. You'll be able to watch the full office hours from start to finish over on our YouTube channel. So let's dive in to the what, the how, and the when of weekly planning sessions. First, we'll talk about the what. So, simple enough, a weekly planning session is just a weekly routine that includes planning your week ahead and making decisions in advance. Simple enough, right? It's important to note that a weekly planning session is not meant to be a super in-depth 2-hour strategic planning session. This is not what that is. Your weekly planning session is an opportunity for you to look at the week ahead and make decisions. A few popular examples, and I would love to know if you've heard of either of these popular frameworks, but 2 popular examples of weekly planning sessions include the GTD, or the Getting Things Done weekly review, which is typically done at the end of the week. And Rachel says that she's heard of that one. And then Michael Hyatt, who is also a business and productivity coach, he talks about doing a weekly preview, which happens at the beginning of the week. So these are 2 popular frameworks for weekly planning session. And there's no one right way. And that's so important to remember. Time management and productivity is not a one size fits all solution. And so you've got to find what's right. So Danny said, I've heard of GTD and have started reading the book, but I'm not that good at GTD and the GTD stuff. First of all, Danny, I feel you. I've read Getting Things Done. And while it is such a phenomenal system, man, that is a tough book to read. That is a tough book to read. And it's the system's kind of complicated, but it's a good one. It can be foolproof, but I'll tell you, it is kind of complicated. So cut yourself some slack, because even David Allen, the creator of GTD, has said that he doesn't even follow GTD step by step to the letter. I heard him say that in a podcast once. And you know what? When he said that, it made me feel so much better, because if he doesn't even follow it 100%, it's okay that I don't. So I hope that makes you feel better. So now let's talk about the how. How can we approach our weekly planning session? How can we think about what we should include? Now, we'll get into the step-by-step in just a moment, but think of this as our brainstorming time. So ask yourself, where is the friction in your week? Look back on the last week or the last 2 weeks and think about, when were those moments in your week that things just felt hard, that you felt your anxiety rising up. Maybe it was, one evening when it's 7:30 p.m. and you open up the fridge and you're starving and there's nothing in your fridge but a hot sauce packet and some ketchup and a slice of cheese. And you're thinking, what am I going to eat for dinner? So let's just order takeout again. But I don't want to order takeout. Maybe that's your friction point. Maybe your friction point comes in coordinating who's going to take the kids to school, or who's going to help your high schooler with algebra. That sounds like terrible. That sounds like friction for me. What is the friction in your week? And then, kind of like the first question, when do you notice yourself feeling frustrated? When do you notice yourself feeling off, or that, this just isn't quite right? Oh, this always happens. What are those points in your week, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your professional life? When are those times that you notice yourself feeling frustrated? Maybe it's because you want to go to a yoga class or a workout class after work, but you keep forgetting your yoga mat, and so therefore you can't go. What is it that frustrates you? What are your recurring trouble spots? Maybe you, like me, are not a morning person. And by the way, while I'm talking about being a morning person, where are my morning people? Put morning in the chat box. And where are my nighttime people, my evening people? Put nighttime in the chat box. Let me know. We've got morning people. We've got some evening people. In the last office hours, I actually talked about the 3 different biological chronotypes, whether you're a morning lark, a night owl, or a third bird. So yes, you actually can be both. You can be kind of in the middle. I know sometimes I feel like an overcaffeinated afternoon pigeon, if I'm being honest. But what are your recurring trouble spots? Because if you know that you are not a morning person and you struggle to get out the door, what are those things that you could decide or do in advance in order to make those trouble spots just a little easier? Maybe that looks like packing your lunch for the whole week. Maybe that looks like planning your outfits for the whole week. Maybe that looks like packing your car with everything you need for your evening activities. But what are your recurring trouble spots? And then I want you to think about your relationships, whether these are personal relationships or they're professional relationships. What are the common communication breakdowns? And this is a tough one, because it requires us to really think about those misunderstandings, the confusion that has been created over the past few weeks. What are those communication breakdowns? Is it, I thought you were picking up dinner, or I thought you were in charge of the meal plan, Or wait, who's supposed to pick up the kids, or who's going to pick the dog up from the groomer, or what were those communication breakdowns? Because this is another clue as to what you can include in your weekly planning session. And I hope you've noticed that as I'm giving examples, we're not only talking about our work life here. I know that many of us are here in our professional capacities, but you've got to keep in mind making time for what matters looks like work and it looks like life. It's work and it's life, because we're not just work people and we're not just life people. We're whole people, and we bring all of ourselves to the table. And so we want to think about our weekly planning session in terms of our whole self and our whole life. All right, let's talk about when. And the answer is pretty simple. It doesn't matter when, as long as it is somewhat consistent. Now, if one week you do a weekly planning session on a Monday morning, and then the next week you do it on a Friday afternoon, and then you do it on a Tuesday, that's not really going to give you a full week in advance to look at and plan and make decisions for. So I would highly recommend, if you can find either the same day of the week, or maybe a Monday or a Sunday, depending on how your schedule works, but try to be as consistent as possible. So one really great tip to plan your weekly planning session is to create a flexible meeting for your weekly planning session. So let's say that you want to do your weekly planning session first thing Monday morning, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the very first thing. You can actually create an event in your calendar, make it a flexible meeting, and then you can say, I want this flexible meeting, this weekly planning session, to take place at some point between 10 and 12:30. That way, you know that it will happen, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen at the same time. And it can be flexible based on other things that arise in your calendar. And I would love to know if you could see yourself implementing a weekly planning session that's flexible. Just put the word flexible in the chat box, because I would love to know if that's a helpful tip. I think that it can give you a lot more flexibility so that you don't always feel constrained to the same exact time. And it can even be helpful on the weekends as well, when we have events on the weekends, we have things that pop up, but as long as we've got that placeholder on our calendar and we've got that time carved out for it, even if it moves around in the course of our day, we've still got that stake in the ground and that time is held. All right, so we've talked about how a weekly planning session helps us combat decision fatigue. We've dug into the hows, the why, the how, and the when, the why, the what, and the when. Now we're going to start designing. So if you don't have something to take notes, to write with, or to take notes on, I highly recommend you grab something to take notes, because you'll want to make sure that you jot this down so you're able to walk away with your weekly planning session designed and ready to go. Okay, here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to start by creating an agenda for our weekly planning session. Then we're going to determine what tools we need in order to have a productive weekly planning session. Then we're going to decide when we're going to do it. And finally, we're going to talk about how we can make it fun, because surprisingly enough, finding a way to make it fun is one of the most important aspects of making this a habit, of truly making this a habit. And if you were able to join me a few office hours ago where we talked about designing habits that stick, you already know why, but I'm going to tell you why it's so important in just a bit. So, creating our agenda. We want to answer the question, what will you plan? And you might be thinking, wait, Anna, it's just myself doing a weekly planning session. Why do I need to have an agenda? There's no one else that's going to be in the meeting with me. I don't need to set expectations. But here's the thing. Whenever you set an agenda for your weekly planning session, it helps you make it more routine. But before we dive into the routine aspect, let's brainstorm some different things that we can plan and that we can add to our agenda. So like I said earlier, your weekly planning session isn't just for work stuff, And it isn't just for life stuff. It's really meant to help you win your whole week as the whole person that you are before it starts. So your weekly planning session is a great time for you to take a look at your calendar for the week ahead. And as I'm walking and talking through these options, I really encourage you to write down, and it doesn't have to be in order, but to write down the things that you want to incorporate in your agenda. And then after you write them all down, you can put them in the order that makes the most sense, but go ahead and start writing down what makes sense to be included in your weekly planning session agenda. So you could take a look at the week ahead and look at your deadlines for work projects. And you could go ahead and create your time blocks for the week to make sure that time is set aside to work on those projects and make progress on your most important needle moving work. You know, whenever you add those time blocks in first, you're carving out and you're being intentional about how you're going to spend your time. And it really enables you to, have that time carved out so that you're not just giving the leftovers and you're not being fully reactionary, you're being proactive. If you commute to work, or if you have a drop off, if you drop off your pets or your children at a daycare or a childcare center, adding your travel time to your calendar is really important. And I'm super curious, do any of you currently add travel time to your calendar? This is actually something that you can set up within Clockwise in your preferences to automatically add travel time to your offsite meetings. You can also meal plan. You can take time do meal planning. This is especially helpful if you look at your week ahead and you recognize, oh, I have a really late meeting on Tuesday. It's going to be really difficult to make a full meal on Tuesday evening for dinner. So let's go ahead and plan to do takeout, or let me do a crock pot meal that morning. And so there's not a lot of prep involved on Tuesday evening. You might recognize that on Thursday, you've got an event, or you have a dinner with clients, or a professional dinner or something like that, so that you recognize, oh, not only do I need to set up childcare, but I also need to make sure that there's some type of quick and easy food at home. That's why whenever you're making these decisions at the beginning of the week, you don't get to, an hour, 2 hours before and realize, oh no, this is a problem. And then you find yourself in the middle of an emergency. So knocking it all out in advance. If one of your goals for this year is to work out regularly, by planning your workouts in advance and putting those on your calendar, you're able to carve out time for those workouts. So they're more likely to happen, and you're not able to say, oops, there's not enough time today. It's because you've already got it on your calendar. Same thing with afternoon walks. One of my coworkers actually has afternoon walks blocked off on his calendar. So he has that opportunity to recharge, get some sunshine. And he's also made those flexible walks so that they can move based on how his meetings are scheduled, but they're still always on his calendar. If you're in grad school, or if you're taking any courses, you may want to block out your study time, again, to make sure you don't run out of time. Things like carpool. Who's gonna drive others? Who's gonna do the pickups? What are the kids' activities? Do I need to get the ballet shoes out now? Do I need to get the soccer cleats? Is the jersey clean? Finances. It could be a time for you to review your finances and adjust your budget for the week ahead or the month ahead. It could be a time to review your goals to make sure that you're still on track. You may need to make travel reservations, dinner reservations, childcare reservations, and you might want to, decide, who do I want to get coffee with this week? Who do I want to have a virtual check-in with? Who do I want to build a relationship with this week? Whether it's a date night with your significant other, a call to your great Aunt Sally to check in and see how she's doing. You want to get to know someone on your team a bit better. What are those really life-giving relationship building activities that you can put into your calendar in advance? And like I said, you'll want to make your brainstorm list of the things that you want to plan, and then you'll want to create a step-by-step sequence and follow the same order every time. So this helps you turn your weekly planning session from just a planning session into a true routine that becomes second nature, and it helps you avoid skipping a step. You're getting it out of your head and you're putting it onto paper or in a calendar or even in an Asana task, a Trello card, whatever project management system you use. Getting it out of your head and captured somewhere will help you be consistent and not skip a step. So now that we know what we're going to plan, what do we need to plan? And so this is going to be based on what you're planning. I've put together a brainstorm list here, things like your laptop. If you love a paper planner, you'll want to have that close by. Maybe if you're doing a fitness program, you want to have the fitness meal plans close by so you can incorporate that into your grocery list on your grocery list notepad or your grocery list app. Maybe you want to coordinate with your significant other to make sure that your schedules align. If your kids are in school, you may want to review the school schedule to make sure that you've got everything that you need. Financial spreadsheets, sports schedules, and then of course, fun things like pins, highlighters, sticky notes. Maybe you're into washi tape or stickers or markers, whatever it is. Knowing what you need to plan what you're planning, what this is going to do is it's going to enable you to not only save time, but it helps you avoid distraction. Okay, imagine this. You're so excited about doing your weekly planning session. You're like, okay, I'm going to plan my week. And you sit down and you realized, okay, I don't have the soccer schedule. Let me get up and go get that. But you know what happens on your way to getting the soccer schedule? And let me know with a guilty if this has ever happened to you. You walk across the house and then you realize that you need to move the laundry from the washer to the dryer. And then you realize that you're out of laundry detergent. So you go put it on the list for the shopping list. But while you're putting it on the shopping list, you realize, oh, it's almost lunchtime. So let me go ahead and start lunch. And then your weekly planning session has been completely abandoned because you got distracted because you had to get up. And Stacy knows what I'm talking about. Yes. Okay. Yeah. You get it. Like it happens. Oh my gosh, Evan. Okay. See, it happens. So we want to foolproof and fail-proof ourselves by having everything that we need in advance. It even helps to have a little tote bag or a box or something that you keep all of this stuff together. You can call it your weekly planning session toolkit, so that whenever you start your weekly planning session, you've got everything you need right there and ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about when. And when you decide when, I highly encourage you to put it on your calendar because that means that the space is going to be held. And like I said, making it a recurring, flexible meeting in Clockwise can be a really great way to make sure that that time is held, but that it's able to be flexible based on other things that come up in your schedule. So highly recommend trying that. And then finally, how are we going to make it fun? So I've included a few ideas here for making it fun. And as you're deciding what I will do to make it fun, I'll tell you why this is so important in just a second. But maybe during your weekly planning session, you pop in your AirPods and you play your favorite music. That's something small, simple, and free. Maybe you eat your favorite snack. Maybe you're a huge fan of Lucky Charms cereal. And so you pour yourself a big bowl of Lucky Charms every time you do your weekly planning session. I don't know, maybe you go get a fancy coffee and it's like your reward and your incentive for doing your weekly planning session that you get to get a piping hot peppermint mocha. That's my favorite. By the way, what is your favorite coffee or drink of choice? Whether it's coffee or tea, what is your go-to? Because mine is always a peppermint mocha year round. And I love getting a peppermint mocha and settling in and planning my week because it just makes me feel good and it makes me feel excited about the week ahead. Katie likes an oat milk cappuccino. I love that. That sounds delicious. Sometimes I'm a really big fan of drinking tea, but anyway, I digress. Oh, iced lavender latte. That sounds delicious. So another way that you can make it fun is by planning with a friend, whether you do it virtually, maybe you do a Zoom planning session, or you meet up with a friend at an outdoor coffee shop. You can plan to reward yourself after, whatever that might look like. And have some ice cream. Just throwing something fun out there. Or maybe you want to put an X on a habit tracker and make sure that you don't break the chain week after week. So those are different ways that you can make it fun. And you might be thinking, Anna, why is this important? Why are we worried about fun? This is supposed to be serious. Well, if you are aiming to truly make your weekly planning session a habit, if you're truly planning to make your weekly planning session a habit, you want to make sure that it has all three components of a habit. And those three components are the cue, the routine, and the reward. And the cue is the trigger that makes the habit happen. The routine is the habit itself, and the reward is what reinforces that habit as a good thing. And so whenever you decide in advance how you'll make your weekly planning session fun, you're making sure to incorporate that important third piece of a habits that stick by planning for your reward in order to reinforce in your brain, this is a good thing. Okay, so far we have done it, guys. We have created an agenda. We've gathered our tools. We've made a list of what we need. We've decided when, and we know we're going to put it in our calendar. And we've decided how we're going to make it fun, whether it's by having a fun beverage, planning with a friend, or eating ice cream, whatever that is for you. And we've talked about how a weekly planning session helps beat decision fatigue. We've dug into the what, how, and when, and you have designed your weekly planning session. I want to give you a great big way to go because this is huge. And having this routine in your life has the potential to enable you to step into your weeks feeling calm and prepared, that feeling that you want to have. And so now I would love to know, what questions do you have, whether it's about a weekly planning session or if there's another type of time management or productivity challenge that you're facing. What questions do you have? Because I am here for you as your time management coach. And I'm happy to stick around. We've got about 15 minutes left. So any questions you have, I'm here for you. And in just a bit, we'll cover some action items. I'll share the next office hours topic and invite you to join me for that. And I'm still here for any questions you might have, whether it's about your weekly planning session, what you should include in your agenda, if you want to talk about habits that stick, anything that's on your mind, I am here for it. And if not, then we'll go straight into action items and next steps. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, here we go. I got a question from John. How should the timing fit with energy level? I've heard some say it should not be when you're at your best because you should be doing your work. Okay, so John, let me get some clarification from you. Are you asking if your weekly planning session when should your weekly planning session be based on your energy levels? Is that it? When should your weekly planning session be based on your energy levels? Okay, great. So the last office hours was all about how to plan your day, how to plan a sustainable day, how to plan a sustainable work week based on your unique energy levels. So you see, every one of us has a unique biological chronotype, which is essentially like, are we a morning person or a mid-morning person or a night person? And you'll have to check out the replay of office hours number 7 to learn all about that and see which biological chronotype you have. But basically, the gist of it is that we all experience our day in 3 different energy phases. Our energy peak, which is when we're at our top energy level, our energy trough, which is when we're at our lowest point, and then our rebound, which is kind of like, it's pretty high, but it's not as high as our peak. And as a result of these different natural energy levels, some times of day are better than others for certain types of work. So you want to pair your peak energy time with your most important work, with your genius zone work, the work that you're hired to do, like that your most important work. Because what this does is when you pair your most important work with your peak energy level, it enables you to be more accurate, to work faster, and you essentially are able to like 10x your productivity or something crazy like that, because you're firing on all cylinders while doing your best work. So with that in mind, John asks, when should you do your weekly planning session based on your energy level? So here's the thing, we've got busy schedules that are full of different meetings and different events and different things to do. And so while you could start your day, so let's say that you start your day at your peak energy level, you could start your day with your weekly planning session, but that would take away from you being in your peak energy level when you could be doing your most important work. While planning your week is incredibly important, it may not necessarily be as important as doing your most important work. However, if you simply dive in to your week in your peak energy time without having done a weekly planning session, that means that you're jumping in to the first thing without considering how the rest of your week fits into the plan. And so that's why I would recommend doing your weekly planning session as early in the week as possible. Me personally, I do mine on Sundays, because on Sundays I'm not necessarily in work mode yet. And so I'm not planning to use my peak energy time on Sunday for an important work project. So I'm able to use that time on Sunday morning for my weekly planning session. And I'll tell you what, some people, instead of, Sunday can be a really great time to do that, because you're in your personal work mode and you're able to step into Monday already having planned your week. Another really interesting option is Friday afternoons. So GTD, the weekly review, I believe David Allen recommends that you do your weekly review on Friday afternoon, and you're looking back at the week in your review, but you're also looking forward. So you're essentially doing your weekly planning on Friday afternoon before you step into the weekend or before the week happens. And Dee Dee brought up a really great point. She tried to do it on Friday afternoons, but at that point she's checked out and she's tired from the week. And that's so important to recognize, because you have to listen to yourself. And if you tell yourself, I have to do it on Friday afternoon because that's when GTD says to do it, but you don't do it because you don't feel like you're at your best, it's not going to help you. And so, Danny, I think that sounds like Sunday is a really great option for you, because being in that planning mode and proactively thinking about the week ahead, it does help fight the Sunday scaries. It does help you feel like you're walking into your week with a plan. And so, out of curiosity, let me know in the chat box, what day of the week will you try your first or next weekly planning session? Will you give it a shot on Sundays? Will you see if Friday afternoon works? Let me know in the chat box. You already know that I'm a Sunday planner, so I'm going to go ahead and put Sunday in there. Yeah, okay, Evan's going to do Sunday morning. Stacy's doing Sunday. Nancy's doing Saturday. I think that's great. One of my favorite parts of doing it on Sunday morning is that I feel like I'm able to enjoy Sunday knowing that the meals are planned and the groceries are ordered, and I don't have to start Monday by thinking through the rest of the week. And John, I think that this is a really interesting experiment. Maybe you plan your week Tuesday to Tuesday. Maybe that's how you do it. Maybe Monday is your day to dive in and feel like you've made progress on something really important. Maybe Monday you use that peak energy time to really knock out something and feel that accomplishment. And then Tuesday morning could be your prime time for weekly planning session, because Nothing says that you can't do Wednesday to Wednesday or Tuesday to Tuesday or Thursday to Thursday, whatever it is. But I would encourage you to be consistent in order to make it as routine as possible. Rachel, I love that you said Friday morning. One thing that I really like to do, I've probably mentioned this in a past office hours, is that I have a routine called the Thursday look ahead. It's called the Thursday look ahead. So I do a weekly planning session every single Sunday where I plan the week ahead. I plan all my time blocks for the week ahead, the top 3 things that I'd like to accomplish. I also plan meals. I make our grocery list, and then grocery order to have groceries delivered. And then I check the weather and I pick out my daughter's clothes. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I pick out their clothes for the week ahead. But then on Thursday mornings, I do what I call a Thursday look ahead. And it involves looking ahead to the weekend and looking ahead to Friday. And on Thursday look ahead, I ask myself, okay, what have I done so far this week, Monday through Thursday? What's left to do by the end of Friday? What do I need to reprioritize in order to get the most important work done by Friday? And what do I want to do for fun this weekend? Do I want to get tickets to the Children's Museum? Do I want to make dinner reservations? Do I want to drive over to New Orleans and visit with family? It's almost like having a mini weekly planning session on Thursday morning. So that could be another interesting option as well. John, I think Wednesday to Wednesday sounds great because it does mean you can make adjustments. And Danny, love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, it's decided. We will create a method for everyone to stay in touch, to hold each other accountable, to follow up on sessions. Stay tuned. It's coming soon. I'm so excited. Okay, are there any questions as we're getting ready to wrap up, or else I will hop over to action items and we will set our action items. Okay, here we go. Action items, because I'm a coach, so we've got to make sure that we have clear action items walking away from this session together. First, I encourage you to tweet your biggest takeaway from today. One simple sentence: weekly planning sessions are amazing, or I'm going to beat decision fatigue, or whatever it is. And use the hashtag Clockwise office hours. I would love to see it and retweet and like it and the whole 9 yards. And then I encourage you to take action on at least one thing that you learned today, whether that's putting your weekly planning session in your calendar, whether it's creating an agenda for your weekly planning session, one thing that you learned today. And then finally, I invite you to register for the next Clockwise office hours, which will be on March 16th, same time, same place. And we'll be talking about sustainability. We'll be answering the question, how do you retain your top team members and support them so that they can do their best work? What is a sustainable work culture? What does that mean? What does it mean for our companies, for our bottom lines? And what does it mean for us? How does a sustainable work culture play a role in how we shape our day-to-day as we're planning our days, as we're leading our teams, and as we're contributing to our organizations? So join me on March 16th for Clockwise Office Hours, where we will be talking about the real ROI of a sustainable work culture. And you can grab your seat at getclockwise.com/office hours. I'm going to include that in the chat box right now, so you can go straight there. And I want to thank you again for joining me today, for carving out this time to show up, to ask questions, to learn from each other, to support each other in the chat box. Okay, awesome. We've got 2 votes for a Discord channel. To stay in touch. And, I'm just really excited about all of the possibilities that are in store for your weeks as a result of having a weekly planning session, whether you do that weekly planning session on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, or anywhere else. So thank you again so much for joining. It's always an honor and a pleasure to serve you as your time management coach and head of community at Clockwise. So I will see you in 2 weeks as we talk about the real ROI of a sustainable work culture. I'll see you then. Bye. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, thank you.